Good morning, students.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. You're able to see my whiteboard?
Whiteboard, no, ma'am.
No? Okay. What are you seeing? My screen, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Just
Ma'am.
that.
Screen is
This,
Yeah?
the Google Meet screen, ma'am.
Okay. How about now?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Right. So last class, we were discussing about the some of the queries. How can we write on relational algebra? Basically, we concentrated last couple of classes. We have concentrated on relational model, followed by the concepts of relational algebra and different notations, different operations. How we can write queries in relational algebra, and what are the different types of unary operations, binary operations that we can do. All this, what are the different types of joins, inner join, outer join, and aggregate function, F script operator. I mean, how can you write an equivalent of group by in relational algebra? So that is what we saw, and some of the to end the last class, I think we have seen some examples of queries how we can write in relational algebra, right? So that is what one part of your module 2. Actually, your module 2 is a combination of several different concepts. One is your model concept, one is relational model and followed by relational algebra. Then you have what is called the normalization part. And today morning also I shared relational model notes, and I think 2 days back on Saturday I shared model notes. Are you all in receipt of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you all got that notes? Has anyone checked that?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I got it.
Got the
Yes,
mail.
ma'am.
Okay, fine, good. So today's class we will be learning about a very important concept. We'll be moving on to the third part of our second module, that is called as functional dependency. Okay, we'll be learning about normalization. So in order to learn about normalization, first you have to know about functional dependency. So unless you know about functional dependency, you will not be able to follow what is normalization. Actually, in the syllabus, if you look into your syllabus, they have given normal forms based on primary key, and that's all they have. It is mentioned in the syllabus. But I cannot directly jump to normalization or different normal forms, first normal form, second normal form. So we have to learn and understand what is a functional dependency first before we move into the normalization concepts. Okay, these are very, very important concepts. Even going ahead, whenever you do your projects, you should also know how to normalize your project or how to normalize your database and so on. And in the of course, in the interviews and placements also, they'll be focusing on all these things. So pay attention. Let us understand what is functional dependency. Now, this functional dependency short form, you can also write it as FD, or you can even write it in small form, small f and small d. That is also fine. Now, what is this functional dependency? This functional dependency is always treated as a constraint. Okay, constraint on what? Constraint between two sets of attributes. Constraint between two sets of attributes. What is functional dependency? It is a constraint between two sets of attributes. Okay, which means to elaborate, I always denote functional dependency as like this. Can you please mute? Somebody is unmuted. Can you please mute? Hemalata, Dakshayani, Kaushik, all of you. Can you please mute?
Ma'am, I have
It's
not
muted,
unmuted.
ma'am.
Just now you appear muted. Okay, anyways. Right. So we always denote functional dependency like this. X, and then you have an arrow mark, and then you have Y. What is this X? I said it is a constraint between two sets of attribute. X and Y here are nothing but the two sets of attributes here. So that means whenever I write functional dependency, functionally determines Y, or Y is functionally dependent on X. That is how you read this. Okay, X functionally determines Y, or in other words, Y depends on X. Okay, Y is functionally dependent. It is dependent on X. We can also read it like this. Now, how do you define? I said it is denoted. This is how you denote a functional dependency between any two sets of attributes. So X is one set of attribute, Y is another set of attributes. Okay. Now it is going to specify a constraint on the possible tuples of R. What is R? R is our table or relation. What is that? Whenever you have two tuples, T1 and T2. Of course, in a particular relation, in a particular table R, you will have lot of tuples, is it not? If we have T1 of X is equal to T2 of X, then T1 of Y should also be equal to T2 of Y. This is what is the definition of functional dependency. So a functional dependency, which is denoted by X implies Y, is always defined between two sets of attributes X and Y, okay, on the relation R. It is always defined as functional dependency specifies a constraint between the two sets of R, two sets of attributes of R. Now, what is this constraint? For any two tuples T1 and T2, if we are going to have T1 of X is equal to T2 of X, then T1 of Y should also be equal to T2 of Y. Which means X, that's why I said X determines Y. That means if you know the value of X, then I can easily find out the value of Y. That is why we say Y is dependent on X. X determines Y. X functionally determines Y, or Y is functionally dependent on X. That's why you call it as functional dependency. Okay, the set of attributes X, we represent it like this, is it not? X implies Y. So X, the set of attributes X is called as the left-hand side attributes, whereas the set of left-hand side of the functional dependency, Y is called as the right-hand side of the functional dependency. Now let me show you some quickly show you some examples so that it become much more clear to you as what do we mean by functional dependency. Let me take an example of a table. Let me take the table as EMP project. Okay. Now EMP project is a relation or it is a table, whatever you want to understand. I have all these attributes. SSN, it's a primary key. Okay. Then employee project, that's why I've named it as EMP project. So I'll have attributes of employee, some attributes of project also, right? Such a table I'm creating, let us see. I also have a attribute called as P number. Then I have hours. Then I have E name, employee name. I have P name, which is project name. And then I have P location, that is location of the project. Okay, this is my table. All right, this is my table. Now, I will give you some functional dependencies. What are the functional dependencies that should hold in this particular table? Let us see. The first one, if I will say, SSN implies E name. When I say X implies Y, I said X and Y are two sets of attributes, right? Set of attributes means it can be either a collection of attributes or you can have just one attribute. That's also fine. Here also Y can be just one attribute or it can be more than one attribute, right? Now here, first example, look at this. SSN implies ename. X implies Y. X is an attribute, Y is also an attribute, I said. So we have SSN is also an attribute, ename is also an attribute. What do you understand from this? The value of the employee's SSN will uniquely determine what is the name of the employee. That means if I get to know what is SSN, I can immediately find out what is the name of that particular employee. That is why we say here SSN is functionally dependent to functionally determines employee name, or employee name can be determined functionally, or is actually functionally dependent on SSN. Why you say dependent on SSN? Because if you give SSN, only then you can find out the name. Whereas other way around, Y implies X is not true here. In this case, it is not true. Given the employee name, can you find out what is the SSN? You cannot find out because employee names may be duplicated. Same two employees may have the same name. That is not possible. It's not possible in this case. Let us see if it's possible in some other case. Is it clear? So when I say functionally dependent, so ename is functionally dependent on SSN. Let me give you one more example. P number. These are all functional dependencies on this particular table employee project. Okay, we are writing with respect to this. Now when I give P number, I can immediately find out what is P name. I can also find out what is the P location. So look at here. Here we have more than one attribute on the Y side. This is my Y, this is my X. P number functionally determines P name and P location. That means what? Given the project number, I can immediately find out what is the name of the project and what is the location of that project. This is what you call it as X functionally determines Y. That means P number you give, I can determine or I can find out what is P name and P location. Other words, P name and P location is functionally dependent on P number. Why dependent? Because only if I give P number, I can identify what is the name and location of that particular project. Right? Now, let me take one more example. I will take SSN and then what can I take here? P number. These two will determine hours. Right? So what is happening? This is my X, this is my Y. X determines Y. What is X here? X is SSN and P number. That means given the SSN and the project number that he is working on. That means employee's ID I'm giving. I'm also giving you which project he is working on. If I give these two, I can always find out how many hours he is working on that particular project. So that's why I said SSN, P number implies hours. Just with SSN 2 hours, I can't do this because one employee may be working on several projects. So when he's working on several projects, how will I determine this? That is why I have taken SSN, P number. Will together determine what is the number of hours that he is working on that particular project. Okay, so when I say, I will just give you, summarize this again. I said, what do we understand by? We start with functional dependency. Functional dependency is, if you look at the definition, it is a constraint which is defined on two sets of attributes of a particular table R. Okay, so two sets of attributes I said. So X and Y here are nothing but two sets of attributes. How do you denote it? You denote it as X determines Y. X is one set of attribute, Y is another set of attribute. X functionally determines Y, or I can say Y is functionally dependent on X. Okay, so we are trying to define a constraint. What is a constraint? If there are two tuples T1 and T2, and for any two tuples T1 and T2, if they're going to exist T1 of X is equal to T2 of X, then T1 of Y should also be equal to T2 of Y. That's how you define it. Okay. And then we took an example, employee project as a table. So here employee project is the table. So it will have some attributes from our employee table. It will also have some attributes from the project table. So what are the attributes that are there? It has got SSN, it has got P number, hours, E name, P name, location, T location. Okay, these are the attributes. Now, examples of functional dependency. The first one I took was E name SSN determines E name. So that means what? Given SSN, I can always find out E name. And that is possible for every set of tuples that we have. If I can find out E name from given SSN, I should be able to find out the E name of any record given the SSN. That is why I said T1 of X is equal to T2 of X, then T1 of Y should also be equal to T2 of Y. The next example that we took was P number determines P name and P location. So given the P number, I can always find out what is the P name and P location. If I am able to identify for one given project number, I am able to identify what is that particular project name and project location. Given any P number, that should hold good for all the records in the table. Right? Next example we took was SSN comma P number implies hours. That means given this both SSN and project number, I can always find out how many hours he is working on that particular project. How many hours that particular employee is working on that particular project. I can find out that. So if I am able to find out one particular record like that, for any record, for every record of the table, given these two information, I should and must be able to find out what is the hours. And when I said X determines Y, X and Y are two sets of attributes, I said. When I say set, though we are saying it as set, X can take a single attribute. It can take more than one attribute. Similarly, Y can take just one attribute. It can take more than one attribute. All the examples we have seen here, all types of examples. Any doubts or any questions so far, you can ask me before we proceed. I can't hear you, Raman. Please be louder. It's not clear at all. Can you put it in the chat box? It's not at all clear to me. Yeah. Any questions? Anyone here? Anyone else? Is it clear to you all? Any doubts? Benaka?
Ma'am, no doubts, ma'am.
Yeah. Raman, put it in the chat box. I will clarify it. I'm not able to hear you. Your voice isn't clear. Yeah, T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. If that is there, then T1 of Y should also be equal to T2 of Y. That is what I said. See, if you are able to see, for example, you have two tuples, right? So first tuple, you have 101, P number is P1, and then ours is E name, project name, some P1, 2, 3, okay. P location. Okay, so suppose you take another record like this. Suppose here also you have 101, but you may have he may be working on project P2. You may have some other hours is the same. So name has to be same. He'll be working on some other project. So name is different. And then location can also be different. Okay, because the project is different. All right. Now, what does this say? T1 for any two tuples, T1 of x is equal to T2 of x. Let us take T1 of x. This is my first tuple T1. This is my second tuple T2. T1 of x. Let us say I will take for this first one. SSN implies name. Okay. T1 of x is what? 101. T1 of x is equal to T2 of x. If this condition holds, then T1 of y should also be equal to T2 of y. This is what. That means this particular column is always dependent on this particular column. Is that clear? Whenever you say functional dependency is there, this condition should follow. And you cannot take for every set of attribute like this if you observe. Is it not? It will differ. Try and understand in terms of these examples that I gave more than that particular definition. Right? If these examples are clear, then I think the concept should be clear. Okay, let's proceed. All right. Next. How do you represent this particular functional dependency? This is my table. This is the attributes or set of attributes that I took. So I have SSN, and then I will take it up again, P number, hours, E name, P name, P location. Okay. Now, how do I represent the first? The first functional dependency that we considered was SSN implies what did we take? E name. Okay. Now, how do I represent this in this particular schema? So SSN implies E name. Okay. This is my functional dependency 1. SSN implies E name. Next, I have taken P number implies P name, comma, P location. This is my second functional dependency. So FD2, let me call it as P name, P location determines, or P number rather determines P name and P location. Look at the arrows. Where are we putting? All your set of Y attributes should have the arrow headed towards them. This is your second. This is how you represent your FD2. P number, we have marked it here. P number determines P name and P location. Next we took SSN and P number implies hours. SSN and P number implies hours. This was our, let me mark it here only. SSN and P number implies hours. So this also should come here. Okay, this gets attached to your table, right? So this is how you try to represent this in the in terms of your notations. Okay. We call it as a diagrammatic notation for displaying the functional dependency. The left-hand side attributes of the functional dependency are connected by vertical lines to the line representing the functional dependency. This is your whatever horizontal line you are writing, no? That is the line that represents the functional dependency. All your left-hand side attributes of the FD are connected by vertical lines like this. To the line that this vertical line should come to this horizontal line, which is representing the functional dependency. While your right hand side attributes are connected by arrows pointing towards that particular attributes like this. Right hand side only should have these arrows. Left hand side just the vertical line. Everything should be connected to the horizontal line which actually represents your functional dependency. That is a notation that we have given. Any questions so far? Any questions? Anyone? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Right. Now, this functional dependency, okay, is always semantic based. Semantic based means it depends on the domain, or it basically depends on the the business rules or the business logic. It depends on. That means you cannot write the functional dependency as and how you like. It should be defined explicitly by someone who knows about this particular attribute. So I know that if what does P number and SSN determine, and if I give these two, what I can determine hours. This is what I know. That means given the SSN, I can find out what is the e-name. That means there should be somebody who knows about this project. Only then they can try to write about this functional dependence. You cannot automatically assume things. That is not possible. All right. Okay. Next we have, let me tell you something important. We move on to what is called as inference rules. I hope functional dependency, the notations, the way we represent these things are clear to you all. Okay. Next we go for inference rules for functional dependencies. What are the inference rules? What do we mean by inference rules? Why do we need inference rules? Now, when I give you a project, or when I give a table like this, let us say employee project, I have given or I have specified these three functional dependencies. Are these the only functional dependency of the table? No, there can be so many other things which is known by default. It is known. I don't have to explicitly give. I know it already. Okay, so certain things, certain functional dependencies may be there like that. It is in the real-time application. It is not possible to specify all the possible functional dependency for a given situation. It is not possible to do that. So we should be able to infer. But how do I infer it? There are certain rules. For example, let us say, I'll give you one more example. Suppose I have department. I will take a simple example. Of course, not out of this table, just like that. Suppose I have department number. Suppose I give something like this. Department number determines MGR SSN. That means what? Given the department number, I can always determine who is the manager of that department, SSN of that manager. That I can determine. Okay. Now, I can also do something like this. Given this, I'll have, let us say I have one more dependency. MGR SSN determines MGR phone, manager phone. That means once I know the manager, who is the manager, I can easily determine what is his phone number. Now, these two together will imply to me department number implies a manager phone. Right? This is another dependency I can arrive at. It is something like this. A determines B, B determines C, and hence I can determine A determines C. Look at that. Department number implies manager SSN. That means given the department number, I can find out who is the manager of that department. Given them who is the manager of the department, I can always find out what is the phone number of that department, a phone number of that that manager. Now, given these two, I can always arrive at this something like this. So, given the department number, I can find out what is the phone number. A implies B, B implies C. So, I can write A implies C. So, now this particular dependency, I am already able to infer it. So, I don't have to give specifically. That's why I said in any real-time situation, it is not possible to specify all the possible functional dependency for a given particular situation. Okay. Now, this one, what I said, department number implies MGR phone, manager phone. It's an inferred FD. That means I can easily conclude that. And I need not specifically state it in addition to the these two given FDs, I don't have to give one more like this, because I know it is, if this A implies B and B implies C, I know that A is implying C. So I don't have to specifically explicitly state this also. So like that, you may have so many functional dependency. Okay, so therefore, in order to define this, we have a concept called closure. Closure is what? It is going to include all possible dependencies. Closure will include all possible dependency that can be inferred from a given set, let us say F. So the set of all dependencies that include F as well as the dependency that can be inferred from F, we call it as closure of F. It is denoted by F plus. What is F? Set of all functional dependencies. Okay, that means these two, let us say these two will form your F. There are several others which I can infer from F. This one, like this one. So what is closure of F? Set of all dependency that include F. This is my F. This one. These two are my F. These two are my F. So set of all your dependency that include your F as well as dependencies that can be inferred from F. You call it as closure of F. It is denoted by F plus. These are all, suppose I have put here, see this example. I have specified all these functional dependencies. This becomes my F. Now from these three, I can probably, maybe I can try to infer a few more. It is possible. See here, P number implies P name and P number implies our, something like that. I can try to find out. This set, what I have given is F. From this F, I can still infer a few more which I have not stated here. So those which I can infer plus this F, together I call it as closure. Set of all the dependencies, okay, that include F as well as all the dependency that can be inferred from F, together I call it as closure. Closure is represented as F plus. Right? Let me take an example. One more example I will show you. Let us say my F is all this. F is what? I will specify all these are my F. Like for example, if I give E name SSN, I can determine what is the E name, birth date, address and D number. Okay, this much I can determine if I know the SSN. One more I will give, if I know the D number, then I can determine what is the D name and what is who is the manager of that department. I can infer. These two together I call it as F. Okay, these are this is a set of dependencies. That's why I call it as F is nothing but the set of dependencies that we have stated it. We have explicitly stated. Now, given this, I can always infer a few more. What can I infer from this? SSN implies E name, B date, address, D number. Yes, that means what? Your SSN implies your D number also. So given the D number, what I can do? I can find out D name and DMGR SSN. So what I can infer? I can infer that if I get SSN, then I can find out what is D name and DMGR SSN. Or the department manager SSN. Yes or no? Suppose I put this as D. This will also be D. Are you getting me? This is a set of dependencies. That means given this SSN, what can I determine? I can determine the employee's name, I can determine his birthday, address and D number. So that means SSN can determine D number. I will get to know. And what D number can determine? It can determine D name, DMGR SSN. So given these two, what can I infer? I can always infer that SSN determines D name and DMGR SSN. Okay, then I can also write D number implies D name. That is also possible. That's another. Already we are given here. I can still write one more like this. If I have a supervisor and a supervisee, given this SSN, I can also find out what is SSN or MGR SSN. These are all inferred dependencies from here. I don't have to state it explicitly. Once I give these two, I can know all these also. This whole set, I call it as closure. This is my F. These are all my dependencies which I inferred from F. So this whole thing, I will call it as closure of F plus. Any doubts, anyone? Before I start the inference rules. Is this closure clear? Any questions so far? Now, when I can infer, I will write that notation like this. This is the notation F, X implies Y. That means this X implies Y is a dependency which I am trying to infer from the set of dependencies that I already have. Inference. I said F is SSN implies all this. D number implies D name and DMJ. That is my F. That is the dependencies that I have stated. It is possible for me to infer certain things from these two. Given these two, I can infer a few more dependencies. I can say SSN implies or determines D name and DMJ. These are all inferred. So that inference, I try, what is the notation for inference? This is how you try to represent. Okay, this is the notation for inference. F is, you have a set of, this F is, you have a set of dependencies. You are trying to infer X implies Y from F. So that's why this inference is this particular symbol. We'll be using that symbol when we go for writing the, finding out the inference rules. So there should be some systematic way to infer the dependencies. So everybody cannot go on inferring whichever way you like. Is it not? There should be some rules that you are trying to follow. For example, here we have followed transitivity. It is nothing but A implies B, B implies C means A implies C. That is nothing but transitivity. We have followed something in order to infer that, right? So there should be a systematic way to infer the dependencies. So that is why we go in for what is called as inference rules. So what are the different inference rules? Let us see that. So as I told you, we will be using the notation. This is the notation that we will use for inference. This denotes what? Denotes that the functional dependency X implies Y is inferred from the set of dependencies, that is F. You are given a set of dependency F, right? From this, you are trying to infer this particular one. So what is the symbol? This is the symbol for inference, right? Any questions? Let us proceed. Otherwise, any questions, anyone? There are 6 inference rules that we are going to learn. 6. We call each one of them as inference rule 1 to inference rule 6. Remember, we learned inference rules in DMS also. I don't know how far you are remembering all that. The first rule, IR1, is called as the reflexive rule. Reflexive rule. Right? So reflexive rule means what? Set of attributes always determines itself. Is it not? Reflexive means always itself only. It determines itself. We call it as reflexive rule. We state it as if X is a superset of Y, then X determines Y. That is your first rule. Reflexive rule, you can also state it as X implies X, because always reflexive means what? Any set of attributes functionally determines itself. That is always your reflexive rule. If X is a superset of Y, then X determines Y. That is your reflexive rule, first rule. Second rule is what? It is called augmentation rule. Augmentation rule. How do you state that? X implies Y is given to you. What you can infer? Look at the symbol. What you can infer is XZ implies YZ. That is what your augmentation rule. Augmentation rule means what? Adding the same set of attributes to both left-hand side and right-hand side of the dependency results in another dependency. What have we done here? We are given X determines Y. What did we infer? XZ determines YZ. That means augmentation. Augment means what? You are trying to add something. That is what you call it as augment. So if I add the same set of attributes to the given functional dependency, both left side and right side, that means X implies Y is given to me. I am adding something on to the left side as well as to the right side. Then I will get a new dependency, which is XZ implies YZ. So you call it as augmentation rule. Next, IR3. IR3 is called as transitive rule. Very simple one. So transitive rule states what? You are given X implies Y and you are also given Y implies Z. What you can infer? You can infer X implies Z. This is our transitive rule. So functional dependencies are transitive also, right? IR4. Decomposition or projective rule. Names you should follow, remember very well. Decomposition or projective rule. This states that X implies YZ is functionally, you can infer from that what you can, if X implies YZ, what you can infer? You can infer that X implies Y. Decomposition it is called. Decomposition rule means what? We can remove attributes from the right hand side of the dependency. So in the right hand side of the dependency YZ, we have removed something. You go on removing, applying this rule repeatedly, you can arrive at X imply Y. Next, IR5. Is called as union or additive rule. Okay, what does this say? If you are given anything like this, X determines Y, X determines Z, I can always infer X determines YZ. X determines Y, X determines Z. I can always infer X determines YZ. So union rule is what? It allows to do the opposite. We can combine a set of dependencies. Is it not? These two are combined. You combine them and you get a new relation. Right? That is what is union or additive. The last one is pseudo-transitive rule. Pseudo-transitive rule. What does that say? X determines Y, WY determines Z, then you can infer WX determines Z. That's a pseudo-transitive. Okay. So each of these inference rules, you have 6 inference rules. each of these inference rules, we can try to prove it. We can either prove it from the definition of, we can prove it from the definition of functional dependency, either by direct proof or by contradiction. So we can always provide proof either by direct method or you can prove it by contradiction. What do we mean by contradiction? Direct method and contradiction. Contradiction means what? We have seen this in DMS also.
Proving RHS and
You should assume something is wrong and then you prove that wrong is not correct. Hence your assumption is false and hence you try to prove that this is right. Correct?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, contradiction. Yes. So we'll try to prove some of them here. All the 6 rules, how do we prove it? So first one, reflexive rule, augmentation rule, transitive. You have to remember all these rules. Okay? The question can appear in any ways. So you have to know what they may ask you to prove all these inference rules. They may ask you to state it. It can be anything. Let's try to prove some of them. Let me change and go to the next one. So proof. So IR1 states that it is a reflexive rule, right? Each one determines themselves. So it's not much thing to do here. So they have given that, what is given? Suppose X is a superset of Y and that there are 2 tuples T1 and T2 are existing in some relation, okay, such that your T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. Now, this will definitely imply for us T1 of Y is equal to T2 of Y. Why? Because we have, we can write this part this is given to us. T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. So obviously we can say T1 of Y is also equal to T2 of Y because X is a superset of Y. Right? So your X determines Y must always hold in R. That's all. Reflexive, you don't have much because you have to determine that they determine themselves, right? Is it clear? What did I say? See, suppose that X is a superset of Y. And you have 2 tuples T1 and T2 existing in some relational instance R of R. R of R means you have several records. That set of records, you call it as R. Capital R is your table. Okay. So you have your tuples existing T1 and T2. Okay, such that this condition already holds. Okay, T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. What you should prove? Then we can all definitely say T1 of Y is also equal to T2 of Y because your X is a superset of Y. Hence, your X determines Y should hold in R. Now, this IR2, we are going to prove it by contradiction. What does our IR2 state? First, let's see that. What is IR2? Augmentation rule it is. What is the rule? Let's put down the rule first. X determines Y is given to us. What you can infer out of this is XZ determines YZ. This is our rule. Correct? Augmentation means I said what? If you are going to add a set of attributes to both left and right side of the attributes of the given FD, then you can bring out a new functional dependency. That is what you have to prove. Now, we are trying to, let us try to prove this by contradiction. Contradiction means what? Let me prove it. This is my proof. How do you prove this? Contradiction means I assume that X determines Y holds. Okay, this is holds. That means it is true. But contradiction I have to prove. So what do I take? But XZ implies YZ does not hold. Does not hold. Rule says what? Augmentation rule. X determines Y is a functional dependency given. Then you should be able to also infer XZ determines YZ. Okay. Now I am trying to prove this by contradiction. So what do I assume? X determines Y is holding. It is true. I also assume that XZ determines YZ does not hold. Now, let me start with this. It does not hold, no. So what I can see, what is the definition of X determines Y? If T1 of X is equal to T2 of X, then T1 of Y is also equal to T2 of Y. That's our definition of functional dependency. So you have to go through that definition only. Now, we have assumed that this does not hold. If this does not hold, then there must be two tuples T1 and T2. Okay. There should be two tuples T1 and T2 such that T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. XZ determines YZ. Right? We are assuming X determines Y holds. So if this is holding, I can write T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. T1 of Y is equal to T2 of Y. Because X determines Y holds. So this definition is fine for me. The second thing what I have assumed, XZ determines YZ does not hold. So the third one, I will write it as T1 of XZ is equal to T2 of XZ. It does not hold now. So I will write T1 of YZ is not equal to T2 of YZ because it doesn't hold. Are you clear why I'm taking like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we are taking X determines Y holds. So these two I can write it off immediately because the definition of functional dependency itself is that T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. Then T1 of Y also should be equal to T2 of Y. The second thing what I am taking, XZ determines YZ does not hold. So since it doesn't hold, I am trying to write this as using the definition of my functional dependency. I can write T1 of XZ is equal to T2 of XZ, but T1 of YZ is not equal to T2 of YZ. But this is not possible. I'm putting it down here so that you can make out. This is not possible. Right? Look at 1 and 3. See, from 1 and 3, if you see, T1 of X is equal to T2 of X. T1 of XZ is equal to T2 of XZ. So I can always write T1 of Z is equal to T2 of Z. This I can bring it from 1 and 3. And then if you see from 2 and 5, look at 2 and look at 5. This is our 5. T1 of Y is equal to T2 of Y. T1 of Z is equal to T2 of Z. So I can always write T1 of YZ is equal to T2 of YZ. This is again from 2 and 5. Now this one, T1 of YZ is equal to T2 of YZ. This whole thing contradicts our 4. Contradicts our 4. Right? Hence you cannot say T1 of YZ is not equal to T2 of YZ. Hence your assumption is wrong. Hence you can always infer. Is that clear? The way we proved it? Let me repeat again. This proof of IR2 we are trying to prove it by contradiction. What is the rule? IR2 is an augmentation rule. It is said that if you are given this functional dependency X determines Y, then you should be able to infer XZ implies YZ. Okay, that is our augmentation rule. Now we are trying to prove this by contradiction, means I will assume X implies Y, but X implies Y or X determines Y holds. At the same time, I will say if X determines Y holds, I cannot infer xz implies yz. That means xz implies yz does not hold. This is what I am trying to assume. So if there exists two tuples T1 and T2, because x determines y, I can write T1 of x is equal to T2 of x, T1 of y is equal to T2 of y. This is possible. Because why it is possible? Because we are assuming that x determines y. The next thing, what did we assume? We assume xz determines yz does not hold. So I can write T1 of xz is equal to T2 of xz, but T1 of yz is not equal to T2 of yz, because xz implies yz does not hold in our assumption. This was not possible because if you observe 1 and 3, 1 says T1 of x is equal to T2 of x. 3 says T1 of xz is equal to T2 of xz. So only if it holds, you can add a new attribute. So which indicates that T1 of z is equal to T2 of z. Okay. Now if you look at 2 and 5, 2 says what? T1 of y is equal to T2 of y. 5 says what? T1 of z is equal to T2 of z. I can always combine them. So if I combine these two, I can say T1 of yz is equal to T2 of yz. So T1 of 6 and 4, you see. Look at 4 and look at 6. Both are contradicting each other. In 4, you have said T1 of yz not equal to T2 of yz. In 6, we say T1 of yz is equal to T2 of yz. Both are contradicting. Hence, our assumption does not hold. Hence, you can try to infer and the rule is inferred and the rule is proved. Any doubts in this? How do we prove IR2? Any doubts?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, after the fourth step, can you explain?
Fourth step. Acha, theek hai. Somebody put there in chat. You're not followed. Tell me what is your doubt, Lavanya. You're not followed the proof of IR2?
Ma'am, I told no doubt.
Oh, no doubt. Okay, fine. I thought you didn't understand. Yes, Rupak, I will clear your doubt. Yeah, it's okay, fine. Rupak, look here. What we are assuming, what is the rule for us given? Rule is, if x implies y, then I should infer xz implies yz. That is our augmentation rule that you have to prove. I am going to prove it by contradiction. Contradiction means what? I take that the result does not hold and then I assume that the result does not hold and I will come back to the conclusion that our assumption is wrong and hence we can infer. That is what we are going to do. Now, x implies y holds. Okay, what is given to us is fine. What is the result that I should get? Xz implies yz is what I should get, but I am saying xz y implies yz does not hold because I am going by contradiction. Okay. Now, having these two with us, x implies y holds, xz implies yz does not hold. Assume that there are two tuples T1 and T2. Okay, what is it you can write with respect to functional dependency? X determines y. So what can I write? T1 of x is equal to T2 of x. T1 of y is equal to T2 of y. That is our definition. So that's fine. Second, what do we have with us? Xz implies yz does not hold. Right? So we have so what I can write that as? T1 of xz is equal to T2 of xz. But T1 of yz is not equal to T2 of yz because it doesn't hold. Right? Now, after these two, look at equation number 1 and look at equation number 3. T1 of x is equal to T2 of x and T1 of xz is equal to T2 of xz. Hence, I can always write T1 of z is equal to T2 of z. That means you have tried to separate it out. Because you have combined it here, I can also separate it. I already have separated x. So I can also write say x, z in the form of separation. Are you getting me? Fifth step, is it clear, Rupa?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, T1 of xz is equal to T2 of xz is our third step. Okay, now in the third, look at the first and the third. In the first step, I've already separated out x. We have also written in the third step x, z we have combined. We can also write separately with respect to z. So that's why I've written T1 of z is equal to T2 of z. Now, you look at, that is my fifth step I have put it as. Look at 4 and 6, or rather 2 and 5. In 2, what we have said, T1 of y is equal to T2 of y. Same step we are applying. In 6, what we are saying, in 5, what we are saying, T1 of z is equal to T2 of z. We can always combine the attributes and write it. So I can always write T1 of y z is equal to T2 of yz. I can combine 2 and 5. And I can still write this. So if I write this sixth step, 4 and 6, if I look, they are all both are contradicting. They are both opposite to each other. So that is not possible. Hence, we cannot say xz implies yz does not hold. It holds. Hence, this rule is proved. Are you clear? Any doubts? Rupak, is it clear to you?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Anyone else? Any doubts in this?
No doubts, ma'am.
So IR3 onwards, we'll take it in the next class. Answer your attendance, Anaga,
Yes, ma'am.
Abhilash,
Yes, ma'am.
Akhil,
Yes, ma'am.
Akrut,
Yes, ma'am.
Anusha,
Yes, ma'am.
Arvind,
Present, ma'am.
Arifullah,
Yes, ma'am.
Benaka,
Present, ma'am.
Vanu,
Yes, ma'am.
Bhargav, Rahmatullah,
Present, ma'am.
Chaitra,
Present, ma'am.
Chandana, Charan,
Yes, ma'am.
Darshan,
Present, ma'am.
Diksha, Dakshayani,
Present, ma'am.
Kishan, Harshit,
Present, ma'am.
Hema,
Present, ma'am.
Uma,
Present, ma'am.
Jain,
Present, ma'am.
Vidya,
Ma'am, she have mic issue, ma'am.
Kaushik,
Present, ma'am.
Lakshmi, Lavanya,
Ma'am.
Manish,
Present, ma'am.
Manoj,
Present, ma'am.
Mohit,
Yes, ma'am.
Naval,
Present, ma'am.
Navya,
Present, ma'am.
Nikhil,
Present, ma'am.
Panindra,
Present, ma'am.
Pavan,
Yes, ma'am.
Pooja,
Present, ma'am.
Purnima,
Yes, ma'am.
Raman,
Present, ma'am.
Rashmi,
Present, ma'am.
Rupak,
Yes,
Rashmi,
ma'am.
sorry, Sai Kumar,
Present, ma'am.
Amir,
Present, ma'am.
Santosh,
Present, ma'am.
Shadab,
Present, ma'am.
Sharan. Sharan is absent. Shashank,
Present, ma'am.
Sheetal,
Present, ma'am.
Shivani,
Present, ma'am.
Soumya,
Present, ma'am.
Purti,
Present, ma'am.
Vishnu,
Present, ma'am.
Gandhini,
Present, ma'am.
Sushma, Sushmita,
Present, ma'am.
Sushmita, you,
Present, ma'am.
Tirtha, Tirtha is absent. Tripti,
Present, ma'am.
Varsha, Veena,
Present, ma'am.
okay, Sushma is present, Chandana is present, Lakshmi is present, Bhargav present, Kishan present, Diksha present. Okay, who is absent? Tirtha is absent. Sharon is absent. That's it. Tirtha and Sharon are absent. All right. Thank you, students. We'll continue in the next class. Thank you.